Hello, and welcome to the April 16th meeting of the Northborough Historic District Commission. My name is Bob Light, Chair, and we'll start with the meeting announcements. This is a brand new meeting announcement because they've extended the remote meeting rules by the state for another 2 years. So, pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency and signed into law on March 28th, 2025, this meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. The order allows the Historic District Commission to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. All members of the Historic District Commission are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed in the agenda. This meeting will feature public comments as it is a public hearing. Each vote taken this evening will be conducted by roll call vote. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Brian Smith.
Here.
Leslie Harrison.
Here.
Brian Swanson.
Here.
Millie Milton.
Here.
Okay, and Tom Reardon is at the fire station meeting, and Amanda's not here yet, but we do have a quorum, and I'm Bob Light, I'm here. Okay, so the first part of the agenda is going to be the public hearing regarding the demolition request for the barn at 6 Reservoir Street. And the way we're going to do this is that I'll just open with a few comments about the issue. We'll have a discussion by the commission, comments from the public, and then additional comments by the commission, and then we'll have a vote. And the vote will be to determine whether the barn is historically or architecturally significant according to the bylaws of 2-36. So this is a house that was built in 1781. It is in fact a witness house, which is a house that was around during the American Revolution or before. The barn, however, is attached, and if I could.
1781?
I'm sorry, yeah, 1781.
Is that late to be a witness house?
It's during the Revolution, so it counts.
Okay.
But most of the witness houses were before the Revolution. So can you see the screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the breezeway of the house that the house is off to the right. This is the barn. It looks like it was an older barn at this point, and there were some additions put on. And this is the only part that is going to be demolished. So the house, the historic house, is going to remain. The
the barn itself will be not demolished, or also
the barn, the whole barn will be demolished, including the old section. Now, the question is whether this barn was 100 years old or not.
Right.
Because if it was not, it would not be historically significant. What happened was I received the documents a week ago, Monday. We were not able to determine exactly when it was built. The owner, who, by the way, is on the line right now, did not have any records. There was a record from the assessor's office, which had a date of 1982, but as I clarified with the assessor, that was the date of the most recent upgrade or renovation. So it was basically, I think it was referred to as a effective year. So it had nothing to do with when it was built. So because we weren't sure, the the town inspector felt it was more than 100 years old. It certainly, this part looks more than 100 years old, but we weren't sure. So in order for us to get this public hearing in within within the 30 days, I had to schedule this as a public hearing today.
Mhm.
So assuming it is 100 years old, now the next question is it architecturally or historically significant? Amanda and I did visit the property with the contractor, and the owner was there. There is also a report from Colonial Restorations, and some of the highlights of that report is that it's original post and beam with severely poorly built additions, several Mickey Mouse supports, collapse likely in near future. Roof has significant sag.
Mm-hmm.
Additions have concrete slabs poured, which are cracking, some worse than others. Rafters vary from 2x4 to 2x6, all spanning longer than they should. In general, this barn and its additions are not worth saving. They were poor at best when originally constructed and neglected, and poor repairs have made matters worse. Overall, the barn is not in a good candidate for restoration or repair. Making the building structurally stable would easily cost $75,000 to $100,000, and it would still not be a great building. The owner has also informed me that she has saved some of the historic artifacts from the barn, some of the beams, some of the signs from this was the old Fawcett Apple Farm. So basically there has been some renovation done or restoration to save some of the more important parts of the barn. Here's another view. I have several other pictures that basically highlight what was in that report. It is in bad shape. And then the question becomes, is it historically significant that it needs to have a demolition delay? Okay. So how do I stop sharing here? Okay, so we're back. So are there any comments from the commission? Anything to add? Volker?
Yeah, I have a question. There is a barn behind it, which you didn't show in your. Is this also being demolished? Is this a part of all of this?
There is a separate barn, which is, I believe, a ceramics building where the owner makes ceramic products, and that's not going to be demolished. It's only the contiguous structure that I showed.
Okay, thank you. And do we know what she planned to do there, or do you want to have free space?
I believe that it will be there'll be a new barn put up. That's the plan. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Bob, you said the owner is here to address questions?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Lisa Orr is here. Hi, Lisa. So if I may, I'll open it up for public comment. I think I'm supposed to read something here. So by phone, dial 9 to raise your hand or be recognized by the chair. Okay. In a Zoom, click raise your hand on the bottom of your screen and wait to be recognized. The chair will ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. And once the chair has a list of all public commenters, the chair will call on each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. Lisa. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Okay. So I wrote down some of, I don't know, my ideas. I mean, let's see. I want to say first that I have met many of you on the Historic Commission. I am very honored to be the steward of this property and love the old house and tried my darndest and got 3 barn restorers to look at this, even during the pandemic. One is a really famous one by Zoom in New Hampshire, and everybody shook their heads and went, "This is not worth saving." And so, anyway, so I've been thinking about this for quite a while already. It's overspanned. There's concrete smeared over dirt in some areas. There's some floors are okay. The roof hasn't been maintained. There's significant rot. I'm a little worried about a couple of the really flatter places that I don't think they'll sustain snow again, snow loads. There's when it rains inside, outside, it's raining inside there everywhere. And I love it that this was an old connected farm. So the proposed building is a metal building, which will be the same color, roughly the same shape, and it will replace this, but it would be functional and it would be dry and warm. And the contractor is here. And so he can tell you about that if you have questions about it. And so I'm trying to honor the past by replacing it with something the size or shape, the same size and shape, because it just didn't make any sense, economic or otherwise, to try to save the bits and pieces of this, which is all crumbling anyway. I have tons, all the historic things. I'm an artist, so I love those things. I have loads of apple ladders, scythes, signs, posters of how to judge an apple, these cubbies, apple cubbies, horse things. Anyway, lots of all that is saved. So, anyway, I am trying to do my best to honor the Monroe, the Monroe Howe Emerson Buckland House and the Fawcett House. So thank you for coming.
Well, thank you. And I do appreciate that you've taken the effort to save parts of the barn that were from the old Fawcett farm
and some of the old wood that, I mean,
the
some of the wood that's not got holes pecked in it by birds and stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Because some of those planks are so wide. I can't. Anyway, so I'll be saving the planks.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Yes.
I think we managed to somehow get in as presenters, but we are, my name is Tracy Horgan. I'm here with my husband, Michael, and we are across the street at 17 Reservoir Street.
Yes.
And we just wanted to give our support for this project. The current series of ramshackle sheds are not desirable for anybody, particularly the property owner. And Lisa's done her best to preserve this in a way that is in keeping with the history of the property. And it seems that the only really beneficial way to move forward is by constructing a new building. And I think it's going to be far nicer and a much better nod to the history of the property than the eyesore that is there now.
Thank you for your comments.
And this is her husband, Michael. I just a couple of additional comments, if I may. I'm also at 17 Reservoir Street, directly across the street, of course. But if you look, when you took the visit to the building, if you did look closely, there are some areas where the siding has actually been, fallen away over the years. And you can see in the old part of the barn, some of the main supports, the vertical supports are virtually non-existent. They've just rotted away. And so, because of that, we do support, as nice as and quaint as it is to look at an old barn, it's we do support sort of moving on. One of the sad facts about old barns these days is that for the most part, we have an old barn behind our house. And it's we go inside, you can tell it's been repurposed from other old barns. It's what some of the Yankee farmers used to do, is they would disassemble a barn and they would save the good parts and rebuild new barns. And so we understand a lot about maintaining the barn. It's quite expensive, it's difficult. And one of the sad facts about old barns is they met the needs and purposes of the farmers who built them way back when. for the most part, those barns were hastily built and to meet a specific purpose, but they really aren't built to the modern day building codes, and they don't really meet the current uses that homeowners need buildings for. And it's one of the unfortunate facts of barns, as cute as they are to look at. So it's part of the reason why the town let the Stirrup Farm barn fall apart, because it couldn't find a use for it, and it just fell apart until it was finally demolished, because they're difficult to really repurpose in the modern day life. The barn, as mentioned by Lisa, is that there really is no true foundation. It's really just on dirt in some places and some slabs in other places. And I think the concern, and every time we have a windstorm that comes by, we always kind of peek out our window and just hope and pray that the barn is still standing. The bigger concern is what would happen to the main house if that barn did collapse, and what might it do to the true historic part of that property, and maintaining that, I think, is probably of a greater concern to the commission than the barn, which is, as you mentioned before, just a lot of added on sheds with various extra lumber that they had over the years. The plans that Miss Orr has for the barn, for the replacement, is definitely in the spirit of what's there now, and I think it will look a lot better and meet her purposes, in a more efficient, in an efficient way, and be safer as well. So as a butters, we do support taking the barn down and moving on with something that is better. So.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else from the public? Okay. If so, we'll close the public hearing and deliberate. I would just add that even the case of the Starbuck Farm, that had a lot of charm to it, but it was in disrepair and it was actually condemned. So that was not something that required our approval. In this case, this is probably near condemned, but it doesn't have the same charm. It's the old section you could hardly see anymore, and there were some haphazard add-ons to the barn. So I personally would say that this is not historically or architecturally significant, and it doesn't. And the fact that the house will stay there, and the house, which would be, I think, historically significant, will remain, and there'll be a new, nicer looking barn in its place. So I would be in favor of saying that this is not something that should require a demolition delay. And in fact, there's probably reason why they would eventually have to condemn the barn anyway. Just my thoughts. Any other comments from the commission before we make a ruling? No, okay. Hearing no other comments, I would like to, would someone please make a motion that says, I move that the barn attached to 6 Reservoir Street is not an historically or architecturally significant building, and the Historical Commission shall notify the Select Board and inspector that the inspector may issue a demolition permit for the barn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, let's vote. Ryan Smith.
I vote we discontinue the barn.
Right, I think, so we'll say a yay is
Yay.
not significant. A yay is not significant.
Okay.
Okay, Leslie.
Yay.
Brian Swanson. Brian Swanson? You're mute.
Yes.
Yes. Millie.
Yay.
And I, Bob Light, vote yay. So the vote is 6-0.
Indeed.
Okay. So be it. Thank you very much. Lisa, good luck with your project.
Thank you so much. I'll have y'all all over. And we can go over all the signs and cubbies and little chains and hooks and all the stuff.
That would be fun.
And if you need some for your museum, you can have them.
Sounds good.
Are there
Okay.
6 voting members here or 5?
5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You said the vote was 6 to nothing.
I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3,
Oh,
6, 5 to 5, nothing. Sorry.
boy, nothing gets past you, Leslie.
Oh yeah, that's right. We're missing Amanda and Tom. 5 to nothing. I will write a letter to the select board and to the inspector. And we were all through. So thank you all. For those of the public, you should mute yourselves and you're welcome to stay on, or leave. We're done with that business.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you for coming.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Great, thank you. Okay, so next on the agenda is the CPA project status and the Brigham Street Burial Ground. So some of us met with Scott Charpentier at the burial ground, and it looks like there's a new option now to have, I think it was a 2x2 posts.
4 by 4.
Several
4x4.
several posts that and within the budget we could have, I think,
4 by 4, Bob, not 2 by 2.
I'm sorry, 4 by 4. The existing posts there now are 7 by 7s, and the posts that he referenced, the ones that are at the town common are 6 by 6 lower posts. So a 4 by 4 would be, I think good. And he could he's gonna try to get a final quote, but it looks like we would, with 15-foot spacing, we would be able to have about 15 posts in line. Then there was another, Billy, you might want to address the other Zen Garden approach with the
Well, I want to go back to the post quickly. So what Scott was suggesting was that we do sweat equity, to do our own, not sweat equity, whatever the term is, to
Yeah.
actually install the posts ourselves. I don't understand that. They've done the rest. Like, why are we setting these posts when they've set all the other posts for us?
That's a good point. I think we need to clarify that because
I
they're
don't-
fairly heavy.
Yeah, they're 76 pounds a piece, and yeah, I just don't understand why. I mean, and when you think about, we've got to it's got to get set 2 feet down. So we have a 2-foot deep hole, which unless you're skilled at doing it, to get a 2-foot hole, you got to make it pretty big to dig down 2 feet, especially with
Mhm.
rocks and everything. I just don't.
Yeah, I think we need to clarify that. At this point, we said that that we were in no rush right now. We wanted to make sure we had a
Right.
good project, and if possible, we'd go for CPA funding in the fall for more money if we needed it. But I do want to clarify that even if we have to, it sounds like this will be less expensive than the original approach, and there should be enough money in there to pay for labor. So even if we had to pay for labor to do it, I think that's probably the way to go. Scott did mention he would dig the holes.
Oh, he did.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
That's what
I did not. Are you sure about that? Because I did not hear that.
I'm
I heard
pretty
he would
sure-
provide the gravel or whatever we needed to put
No,
in.
I think I mentioned something about the hole digging in. He said that would be done
Okay. I
because
did
they
not-
have a hole digger. We don't have something like that. So then the question is, okay, if the holes are dug, then why doesn't someone just put the
Stick
post
'em.
in the hole? And we would also need help making sure that the holes are dug in a straight line. We don't want it to be a wobbly line. So there are a lot of issues there that I think we still need to revisit.
Yeah, I mean, straight line is easy. You put a post on one end and a post on the other end with a string, and
Right.
you just, but yeah, I don't think, I mean, there's a safety concern too, right? They're talking about 76-pound posts that have to be set 2 feet in. And if they're not done properly, it just struck me as odd that we were going to be doing the labor.
I think we need, let's wait for his quote.
Okay.
And we'll try to get a clarification. And it sounds like there'll be enough money left over to hire someone to do the construction. That should
Okay.
come with it.
The other one, I realized I noted, I called it a Zen garden. I think Labyrinth is more like it, what I've seen. I've did a little more research, so it doesn't have to be Zen, but it's, Labyrinth. So Scott came back with the idea that we couldn't do this because it has to be ADA compliant. We have trails in town. We have the public the community gardens in town. We have lots of property in town that's not. I mean, I'm all for making things accessible, but it just feels like it needs to be pushed back on. But I want to get. I mean, I'm the one who's been promoting this. I haven't heard a single opinion from anybody else. So maybe it's a terrible idea. Nobody likes it. So I guess I'd like to get a sense for what people think about it, and if they do, there's a consensus that it's.
I'm
a
kind
good
of at a
thing.
loss for what a Zen garden is. Yeah, I have to look at a picture.
Well, I mean, I can pull up some.
It's, I think, a stone garden which has no plants on it.
But you can do
with-
plants, so you can do, actually, one thing
Puppet
someone
stone.
recommended was pollinators too, so you can do like a spiral and the, and the barrier between this, so you've got a spiral and you've got a barrier. I mean, I can show some pictures or we can do it another time. I mean, I'd like to have, I guess, Tom and Lorna here at some point, or
Yeah,
Amanda.
let's table it because even if we did something like that, that would probably come after the posts.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, but that's, again, we sort of talked about looking at the bigger picture.
Mhm.
Um,
And while you're on that would require stones from the fire station site.
I don't know that that's necessarily true. I think that the labyrinths tend to be more flat, and I think those stones are bigger, so I'm not sure if we would.
Okay. 'Cause
I don't know that well. That's why I'd love to get someone who does these things. But again, I didn't want to spend. I just know that I thought it was a good idea. It wasn't even my idea. It was Open Space Committee. Someone on the Open Space Committee mentioned it. But just before I do any research or try to push the town to say this is an appropriate use here, I just wanted to get a sense from other people if what they even think about it. Maybe it's a terrible idea.
I think that I had said that I thought it was a great idea. And I'm wondering if the accessibility element is because it's something we're creating from scratch versus something that's already existing as far as a trail or
Community, but I drove by the community garden. I drove by there yesterday, and there's a bench there too, by the way, and the bench is on a platform, but there's no
way to get
path
there.
to get to the bench, right? I mean, you have to, it's pretty close to the street, but there's a bench there and it's a community garden. I mean,
Yeah.
So that was something that town built from scratch that is not accessible. So
then what you're saying though is it may not require stones from the fire station.
I don't know enough
so-
about these things. I've just seen pictures of them too. I mean, I've been on them. I've been in places that have them. They're kind of cool, but they tend
That
to
was
be fairly flat,
Yeah.
I haven't
That
seen the
was
stones to know.
It was another thing that came up was I was under the impression that it had already been agreed that the stone wall at the fire station was going to be moved to Watson Park and that there was a budget to do that. And Scott indicated that's not the case
Right.
and that we might lose the stone wall. So then the question is, how do we get the stone wall to the Brigham Street?
Well, we did talk about that at the meeting, right? Scott
Right,
said as
but-
long as we go and pull out the ones we want, then he would come and pick them up and transport them to.
Okay, so we wouldn't have to pick them up or anything. We just identify them.
No, he wanted them in a pile. We'd have to move them to a pile.
You wanted them in an accessible place too, because he said he couldn't get up to where they are now.
Yeah. That's not something I'm thrilled about. With the amount of money we're spending on the fire station, you'd think that they would be able to move the rocks for us. But
Yeah, and again, I mean, sometimes when you push back, like sometimes people will give you the answer. I mean, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Scott, and I'm not just saying this because we're on video. I really do. I trust him implicitly, but there are times where, it's appropriate to push back and,
Or
get
see
people
if
to think
there's
about things a little
another
differently. So,
approach.
what was that, Millie?
Or see if there is another approach.
Right.
well, we'll keep that in mind because if we need the stones, I don't think we're talking about making a stone wall at Brigham Street. It would be for the Zen garden or something.
What Tom was proposing was having sort of stone walls. My interpretation of it was over in the burial area, sort of, so that you could kind of sit on the wall and kind of. That was my impression, but I think we need to wait for Tom to be here anyway for lots of
Okay.
reasons.
Let's table this until next. Again, we're not in a time crunch to spend spend the remaining funds.
Right.
Let's
Okay.
wait for Tom. We'll also wait for Scott to give us an indication of the cost of the whatever 15.
In the meantime,
Post.
just Google labyrinth, you know, garden
Okay.
or something like that, and you'll see all sorts of, but I like the idea of having pollinators, planting pollinators, because you want it to be as low maintenance as possible. So you plant a bunch of wildflowers, you have a maze or the simplest is just a spiral, and you have the boundaries are, the separation between the spiral areas can be pollinator, plants and things like that. So anyway, all right.
Let's
Thank you.
we'll wait till next meeting to talk to Tom because he
Okay.
knows more about the stone wall.
Okay. Thanks for everybody for enduring hearing me talk about this constantly.
Mm,
Yes,
If I can-
Rudy.
If I can ask, there was an idea of community garden. I don't know where the community garden is in Northborough, which is the existing one, and the other one is also a proposal would be if we can find out how many interests would be there to have a community garden at this spot. If there's enough interest of the public or of the neighborhood, or I guess neighborhood, maybe that's. I thought that would be a great idea.
So the existing one is on Valentine Road between Howard Street and Church Street. And we did discuss community garden here, but we kind of decided that it was too active a use that really wasn't in harmony with the burial ground.
yeah,
Okay.
Great use of the space, but since we're looking at the overall space, not just this part of the property, but looking at it in concert with the whole burial ground, it felt we kind of agreed. I think everybody agreed that it felt
yeah.
didn't feel appropriate.
Okay.
Not to mention parking too, because community garden can attract more people and there's not a lot of parking there, so it could end up being parking issues. But I think mostly it was just, is that other people's impressions too, that it was?
Yeah,
This seemed incongruous with the
Right.
elements there.
Okay.
All right, let's continue this at the next meeting, Tom, and we'll wait to see what Scott has to say.
Great, thank you.
Okay, next is the Warp Cemetery sign. I think we have an update, right?
Mm,
No, but we don't. We have
She said
lip
you-
service again.
You have an update.
Yeah, well, no. So the last thing I did, I sent, let me find it. It's pretty far down. On the 25th of March, I got a response from Andy. I do apologize. A combination of factors, none of them excuse the lack of service. I will get you a production schedule on Thursday when I meet with that team. We'll get it taken care of. Thanks for your patience. This was on the 25th. So another 3 weeks have passed and I never heard back.
hmm.
We'll put this on the agenda for next month. Again,
Is there, and there, we're going with them because they made the sign, correct?
Right. Yeah, because they're going to
Yeah.
make it right. Yeah.
yeah, I think we're hoping to at least replace the Howard Street sign closest to the cemetery, closest to the parking lot by the church.
Right.
That's the one that's more accessible by foot. It's more visible.
Yeah, it really stands out there.
But if the others, maybe we could try turning them around and seeing if that works.
Hmm. Hmm.
Anyway, that's my update. I was
Thank
like,
you.
"Ooh, I finally got his attention, but yeah, it was short-lived.
Okay, so now we're moving on to committee representatives update. First one is CPC. I guess that would be Leslie.
Yeah, again, there's nothing until we're done for the season.
meeting,
So
so-
come to town meeting.
You're all set for all the presentations at town meeting?
Yeah, John does that stuff. So
Okay, good. Millie, master plan implementation, anything?
Nothing. Nope,
Okay.
not yet.
Okay, for Revolution 250, we have our first big event this Saturday
Mhm.
at 10 o'clock in the library. It's going to be a exhibit of the 27 witness houses in town. It was a great job by Michael Roman, who is the photographer, who's also a member of the Revolution 250 committee.
Nice.
And also want to thank Millie and C'est La Vie for supplying some of the goodies that we're going to have.
There
Should
will
be
be
a good
snacks.
event. We're all going to be dressed up in our Minutemen outfits, and it should be a good time had by all. We also have completed the 4th video. This one is about the British spies that were encountered in Northborough before, actually before Lexington conquered. Interesting story. So that's available on YouTube. And we're finalizing the final plans for the May 3rd Northborough Minutemen Day event, which will be at Town Common. So once we get through with Saturday's event, then we're going to be getting more details about that new event coming up.
Do you have a time of this May 3rd event? There's
May,
also
May 3rd is going to be 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock,
Okay, thank you.
followed by an open house at the Historical Society, where we'll also have the Witness House display up there. And then after so the library is going to have the Witness House display through the end of April. And then it's going to be set up at the Historical Society for a while. And then it's going to go to the Senior Center. And then after that, we'll probably go to Town Hall. Okay, Tom is not here for the fire station, and Amanda's not here about the library board. So that completes the committee representatives. Now, new business. We have a project ongoing, which is going to take probably a few months. That's the updating of the street naming memo. So the way I think we should handle this is, number one is first keep the list with the grid system that we have and just go through the names of the streets, eliminating the ones that are already used. Also taking, we can vote as a commission to determine which names should be taken off because they're inappropriate in today's modern society. And then third, we would also add some names. So I did add a few names of my own, and I'd be asking all of us to think of new names to add. Let's see, I got some input from Amanda. Basically, she's looking at the possibility of changing it from a map grid to maybe the 4 zones. Or another option is that we do not have location-specific street names. We just have a single list of street names. So that's something to debate. But I think the first step is to get all of the names.
Bob, did you get my?
Right. And then I was
Okay,
going to say
okay.
Leslie, and then Leslie did a great job. She sent me the list with her deletions. I think you went through and identified several streets that were already named, so they were coming off.
Right. Yeah,
I
there were
was
a couple
gonna
resources that were great. I was able to just search those. And
Right. And I was going to show that actually. I can find it. Okay, that looks familiar. So Leslie, you highlighted in yellow the names that should come out.
no, the ones that are in yellow were ones that I put, like there's a Mason was on here, but there's already a Thaddeus Mason. So I put in parentheses one that was similar. So there's already a Jacob Cobb, for instance. So those, the highlighted ones, I just thought we should take off.
I agree. I found similar ones too, like Mason and Thaddeus Mason.
Exactly. So those are the ones I didn't want to just take them off, strike them out. I just wanted to explain why.
No, I think we all have to agree to the ones being taken off, but this is a start. So
And
if
then the
we
ones that I struck out were either that I found duplicates or I just didn't think we should have them at all.
right, and I struck out a few as well. So, not sure if we need more. We could start. So basically the ones that are in zone 5, A, B, and C, they all seem like reasonable names, and they've not been used.
I mean, I pulled Baptist out because it was religious and I didn't think that made sense to have a religion in there unless that's a person's name. So that's an example where I pulled it out because I just didn't like the name.
Mhm.
Didn't think it was appropriate. Tri-corner, I think I did that too. I just like, unless you're like tri-corner has no meaning unless it's at a tri-corner, like something that refers to the,
Yeah, the hat.
Graphical, yeah.
There's
it's a hat. Oh, I'm thinking of like three corners that meet geographically.
Yeah,
well, there's the 3-corner. That's a
but
strange
it
name.
is actually the hat that they wore.
The
Oh,
hat
okay.
is
Then,
called a
okay.
yeah. Well, we could
Oh,
elect
is there a
to-
three-corner? Wait, is there a three-corner
There's
then?
3-corner and tri-corner, which doesn't make,
Right, but three-corner I
both.
have highlighted. Is that because I found the three-corner? There can't be a three-corner street in town, is there? Did I screw up my own system?
I don't believe there's that must be because it's inappropriate.
or it was written twice.
Well, it is going to be written twice on this list, so don't
Yeah.
worry about that.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
no, that, yeah.
Because the way it was set up is that a name was specific to a certain grid.
Yeah, yeah. Not a, yeah. Interesting.
So, Leslie, did you send this to everyone or just me?
No, just you.
Okay.
So I
I think-
understand the cross-out streets should be eliminated?
Yes.
Because they're already used.
Well,
Already used or I didn't like them. Like I said, Baptist I pulled off not because it was used, because I didn't think it was an appropriate name. Wampum and Peace Pipe I got rid of also. I propose, on my
yeah,
list.
I did the same. So here you have like Smith and Smith Pond.
Right. Right. Smith Pond was on there. I guess, but
Hunting ground.
there's already a Smith Road. So Smith Pond was similar enough that we're not going to have a Smith. I don't think we would have a Smith Pond Road and a Smith Road. It's just too
Right.
confusing.
You're asking for trouble.
Right. There's a farmhouse. This was a proposal for farm, but there's already a farmhouse.
So there's a farmhouse already right now.
Yeah.
So clearly farm should come out.
Right. And then there's a country candle. So I think there was a proposal for a country, but there's country can again, anything that seemed like they might be confusing. I thought we've got plenty of choices here. Like take out anything that's potentially
Is there
confusing.
a country candle has been used or not used yet?
That's the old where the candle factory used to be.
Okay. So yeah, country makes no sense.
But under 3C, you have a Nathan and Esquire Nathan. That seems a little bit,
Right. Yeah, that one I didn't comment on, but I agree. Edmonds, Edmund was proposed. We already have an Edmonds. Again, that seemed too close.
Yep.
So,
Spelled differently though. I wonder if it's two different people.
it probably is, but it still just seemed confused. You're gonna have an Edmonds and an Edmund and not have people going the wrong place, or it's just my 2 cents.
Okay, Mary Goodnow.
There's already a Goodnow, Goddenow.
right. And I think there's an E in the historic spelling. We went through that with the preservation plan where it was
Yep.
spelled both ways, and I think we were consistent using the E.
But
yeah.
there's already a Goodnow Road.
Okay.
I think that's on there somewhere else.
Yes.
Common and cow
Well,
common.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I put it in yellow down below.
What about under 4B? You have Williams and Esquire Williams. Again, just one or the other, right? You
Yeah.
wouldn't want both of those.
Right.
Interesting.
Well, another point is that if Williams hasn't been used yet and Esquire Williams hasn't been used yet, then the developer could pick either one.
Right.
So I'm not sure it's necessary to delete it. The only way I would delete it is if there already was a Williams.
Yeah.
So therefore, I think we should keep them both.
I proposed Smithy was so close to Smith that I thought having a Smithy and a Smith would be crazy.
Right.
Especially probably a lot of people would think that Smithy was a misspelling of Smith.
Interesting.
And then there's a list B, which is basically a list that doesn't specifically have a location. Here's your good now and good now again,
Yeah.
taking that out.
Yeah, there are already an increased ward.
Yeah.
There is an
Yeah.
increased ward already, okay?
Yeah, and there's
Yes,
a Jethro,
there is.
Jethro. So Peters was on this list, but there's already a Jethro Peters. That's when I put in the parentheses. That's the parenthesis part is the part that's we already have.
Right, okay. Well, let's do this. I'll send this around to everyone. And just jot down if you disagree with any of the yellows being taken out. And if we all agree, we'll take it out. And then also I came up with this is my own list.
What about the strike throughs also, Bob?
The strike throughs? Well, it's confusing because there was already some strike throughs in the original memo. So those I think I took out.
Right, you didn't even, right, yep.
The strike throughs that I did were the ones that I thought were already existed or were inappropriate. So let's see what I've done. My strike throughs should be here, right?
Right, I took whatever you had done and then I added to it.
Okay.
Like you hadn't taken out wampum and peace pipes, I took that out. Warpath you had taken out and moccasin,
Okay.
I think, but I pulled off wampum and peace pipe.
I took out swamp.
Well, that's I think was supposed to be crane swamp. So it had crane and then swamp and crane swamp, which made no sense. So anytime it was like that, I took out. That's why I proposed getting rid of crane and swamp because crane swamp was there. So I don't know if that was a
Okay,
error
so
in the first
right, so we
list.
so crane swamp is good. I
Yeah.
took out swamp.
Okay, and crane is look up crane above too.
But is there a crane? But again, a choice would be either calling it crane or calling it crane swamp.
I think for this purpose, we should just pick one when there's something similar like that. Because if a developer does pick one, and then we're left with another one on the list, then we still have the potential for
Oversight. Yeah.
oversight. Yeah, that we don't have to. So if we keep it simple, we don't have to go back and say, oh wait, now one of these got taken, and this one would be duplicative or too similar. Let's take it out. So I would
Okay.
tend to
Simplify. Yeah. I'm
yeah
good.
simplify it. We've got plenty of choices. It's not like we have 10 choices and we're worried about. Anyway, that's just my.
Okay, I'll try to create a master document. I'm not going to delete anything without us all agreeing. But what I'll do is I'll send this around to everyone, go through it, see if there's if you have any objections, then we'll keep it or vote on it. Or if you have other additions, other names to take out, we can then decide on that. And then at the end, I also added some new names because since we're dealing with what is it, a 1982 memo?
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's something that might have come up. So my suggestions were Goodrich,
Yeah.
That's a nice one. Yeah, that's a
I
good
like
one.
that.
Colette. Now that's the guy that wrote "I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles." His house is on
Oh.
Main
Say what
Street.
now? Wrote what?
The song "I'm Forever
Colette.
Blowing Bubbles."
Oh,
Very famous.
Colette.
He lived on Main Street.
Yeah.
His house is still there. Captain Wood. We don't have a Captain Wood, right?
Nope.
Minutemen.
Wow.
Minutemen.
Minutemen. We
Yeah.
should have a Minutemen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Musterfield. That's where the Minutemen trained.
Yeah.
Bunker Hill. Our Minutemen fought at Bunker Hill.
Yeah, I was wondering about that one because Bunker Hill is in Boston. Does it make sense to have?
Well, only because Northborough fought there. That's why
Yeah, that one
That was one of the great victories of our time. Bunker
and,
Hill.
yeah, I know normally it's Charleston, but I just felt because and also I think the head of before George Washington came here was Ward was the commander of the colonial troops, and he's from Shrewsbury. So anyway, Bunker, I thought
Yeah,
both-
having a physical location somewhere else just, I don't know, it just seems odd to me, but that's just one opinion.
Okay. Knox train, because we have a marker for Knox train coming through. Colonel Knox with the cannon from Ticonderoga. Hidreth is the comb manufacturer and jewelry maker whose house was in town, and Independence. So anyway, those are my quick list.
Well, you know what? I just thought of one actually. What about Pincus? He lived in C'est La Vie house, founder
I
of the
actually,
Pill.
I was gonna say something about that, but I didn't want to push on that one.
Why not?
Why not?
Because there already was, it was the original, the Ball house, so they lived in that house, but it wasn't built by them. But I thought, well, they already have something named after it, sort
But
of.
he's significant, right? I mean, he developed the
Ab-
pill and he lived in town. That one.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Pincus.
Yep.
There it is. Okay, we got that.
Oh, thanks, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Quick.
It's a great book.
names?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you think about it for a while, and we'll address this list maybe by next meeting. I think we should have the list done, and then the next question is going to be, do we do it location specific? And I think a good idea. It's just here.
See the point of that? I mean, unless some are really that specific to an area. I mean, most of them are pretty generic names.
Right. Well, what we could do is, instead of having the grid, which is very confusing, is do the precinct zones.
Yeah, but you get streets that cross zones and
Yeah.
I mean, what is the benefit to separating it, not just having one master list? I guess that's the question. And if there's a benefit, then we figure out the best way to do it. But is there really a benefit?
Well, I think that's a good point. The original memo went to great pains to divide everything up into those zones, and the let's see. Okay, so there it is, and this map is also obsolete because it's old, but these are the zones that were set up. So you have B, whatever, B2, and so on and so forth. So I think this is probably cutting it down too much, but the work had already been done. Someone gave some thought into where to put these street names. So I didn't want to just do away with it, but I am agree that I'm leaning towards maybe doing away with the grid, which means that we'll have a single list.
And I think when we get the single list, I mean, we can look at those and see why, if there are any that are very specific.
Yeah. Location specific. For example, like the Captain Wood house would be close to Brian's house.
Yeah, but couldn't you still name a street after him? Does it have
Yeah.
to be where he
Right,
lived?
and you could argue that Captain Wood was the leader of the Minutemen for all of the town.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
I mean,
just
these are
this
town
town.
names. I mean, the ones that
Right.
I would think would be specific to area are the ones that are geographic. Maybe I mean, that's just kind of, I'm a literal person. So to name
Right,
it,
right.
Crane Swamp on the other end of town wouldn't make sense.
Right.
Or Hop Brook or something like that, if Hop Brook's not coming through the area. So those
Like,
to me are the only
there-
ones that make sense, or ones that have geographic references if they just seem absurd to be in a different part of town, but it's just
Right.
my weird brain.
So that's a good point. When we go through the list, we'll also identify. I'll spell this out in an email. We'll identify which ones are specific to a certain area, and then we'll decide what area it is, and we'll come up with either a zone or using this map. For example, I think there's a mastodon,
Yeah,
and that should be over where the remains of the mastodon were found. Okay, let's move on. We have a lot to cover. I'll send this around and we'll take it up next month. Okay. All right.
Once we do it, can we be done for the next 40 plus years?
Yes, yes, we can. So, someone in 40 years will look at the list and say, I don't know what they were thinking.
Why didn't they put them in grids?
Yeah. Okay, next. Well, we covered this last time for the town warrant. Obviously, everyone knows the town meeting's coming up. So we have from the Historical Commission, we have actually 3 that are assigned to us. So the CPC request for the monument is going to be covered by the CPC committee. And then we have the Revolution 250 request for funds for fiscal year 26. And that's, again, the money, if that was granted, that money is going to be managed through the Historical Commission, but it's going to be basically the committees, the Revolution 250 committee, which covers several other commissions and nonprofits. And then the third one is that what we talked about, changing the definition of a significant building to take out the reference to Macris and historic districts. So we've already covered that and approved that. Hopefully that'll pass. So that'll get around some of the issues that we've had in the past with property that's clearly been significantly modified, but yet remain on Macris, and therefore is no longer historically significant, but the bylaw says it has to be considered historically significant. So we're going to take that away, and it's going to put the responsibility back on our commission to determine whether something is historically significant or not. So those are the 3 things, and then the others involve White Cliffs. So there's several that involve White Cliffs. The CPC funding for the demolition study for taking down the newer sections of the building. And by the way, and then another one has to do with authorization for sale or renting of White Cliffs, as well as for West Main Street. And bids were open for White Cliffs, and there were actually 2 bids received.
Yeah, and one was for a wedding venue, basically to return
Yes,
it the way.
that looked very interesting.
Yeah, tear down the additions and put on a new addition and take
Right.
it back to its roots.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I didn't see, I breezed through it very quickly, but I didn't see all the details. It's obviously being studied, and they're following all the proper procedures for open bids of this nature. So I can't comment on it right now, but that looked interesting. Okay, so that's it. Everyone voted town meeting. Next on the agenda is the update to the master plan. Millie, do you want to table this for now, or?
Yeah, because there really aren't any other updates unless people had added things that I hadn't checked or had revised some of the stuff that I had put in, if people had a chance to look at that.
I'm sorry, did you send something around though? We were having problems opening it, right?
I do believe it was successful last time, that people got what they needed to get for the last meeting, but I just sent it that day. So I don't know if people have looked at it since then, because I believe you sent it.
I sent it?
Yeah, but because I said I was having trouble, so I sent it to you, and you basically, I believe everybody confirmed they got a link to open, or at least view.
Okay, is there any action items for us on this?
Any what?
Any action items? What are we doing now?
I was just looking for some feedback more than anything, to see if I missed some things that we did, or if it wasn't clear, things that I've been adding along. I've been updating it over the course of the couple of years, to meet our short-term goals, long-term goals, what we're working on, and things like that. But maybe I missed something, or maybe it wasn't clear.
Okay, I need to go back and look. I apologize.
No, That's
Don't
fine.
remember.
It's not going anywhere.
All right, good project, but it's not an immediate need.
Yeah, yeah. I
Okay,
just
I'm
don't want
off.
to get so far down the road and have somebody say, hey, we actually accomplished this goal 3 years ago and somehow I missed it.
Next on the agenda, the Main Street, Trinity Main Street Historic District Study. I think we need to table this for another month at least. I don't think there's been anything done. It's a big task, and you know, we're looking for a leader on this. And I'm going to table business and historic buildings was a project that Maggie was working on, so we'll cover that next time. Millie, certified local government.
So I
Okay.
did send out a couple of the summaries that I've been writing and working on today. I still haven't gotten anything from Brian Swanson or Amanda.
You might have got a line or two from me, but I will do better.
Billy bullied me into it.
Yeah, I definitely did. Yes, yeah. You know,
I think we're all
everybody's
being
got a lot more value than they think they do.
we're
I'm
all
like,
being too modest on this. I think we
yeah, yes, absolutely.
I did send a response back, Millie. I don't know if you got it yet, but
I did.
Okay,
Thank
all right.
you.
You're welcome.
And you're looking pretty good. You're looking pretty good, Leslie. Just saying. Yeah. But the only two I might have gotten something from Amanda, but like I explained before, my emails seem to be dropping off after 30 days.
Okay.
Which is
And
really irritating when you didn't realize they did that.
have we heard anything about the local liaison at
Nope.
Massachusetts? No. So
Nope.
right now there's no one to send this to.
As of this point, and I've checked the website a few times. I might actually somehow try to reach out to Jen Doherty again and say, who do I talk to about this stuff? Yeah.
Okay.
But we're not ready to send anything yet because ideally I'd like to get all the information, summarize it. I'm sending it to individuals to sort of go over and make sure I didn't misrepresent something or have not good facts. And then I'm hoping for next meeting that we can really maybe come together on that. Yes, in fact, everything on here is good, correct, and that I can send something out.
What is the procedure to send something out? Is there a form? Is it an online application?
So what Jen had asked me to do is basically send her all the information about the committee members. She said, before you go through that process, send it to me. I will basically say, hey, this is actually not going to work, or you've got 3 out of the 5 positions that we're looking for, and we can begin to maybe cultivate or look for people who have different types of backgrounds and ask. So I'd like to see if we can, if we can begin to shore that up with people that might be of interest.
Okay.
You know,
And these new people would be possibly new commission members.
exactly.
Well, we could always use new commission members.
What's that? Well, yeah, and just begin to talk to what the options are for people out there. Yeah.
I would strongly recommend that when this goes in with the bios, that we also include the preservation plan, because I think that will really hit them. I think that's a very good plan, very extensive, and whether they're asking for it or not, let's send that.
Yeah, I think that's great because I think, again, a number of the, people did work on and are working on those elements of the master plan.
Okay, good. So I think we're at the end here. So now is the fun part. This is April, and we normally select officers for the upcoming year. So I'm wondering, I thought we'd start with chair, vice chair, and secretary.
I nominate Bob Light to be chair.
Yes, please. I second that.
Are there any other nominations for chair, please?
You step back from that line.
Okay. Okay, hearing none.
Are you enjoying it, Bob? I mean, you're doing an amazing job. Like, I thought Norm was gonna be a hard act to follow, but I mean,
You're right in there.
you really are, so.
It's challenging.
Yeah,
I'm-
it's a lot
I'm-
to keep track
I-
of.
I think we want to look at maybe a change next year.
There.
That'll be 3 years. I think that's enough. We need
Yep.
new blood. But anyway,
Appreciate you doing it, but
I do appreciate your support. So, any other nominations? Okay,
I nominate Leslie for vice chair.
I think we're going to vote first.
Oh, okay.
Right, I think, yes?
Makes
Yeah, I think
sense.
we should vote first.
Okay.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
Leslie, I think Leslie made the motion already, and Millie seconded it.
Oh, I thought she was just nominating.
yeah, I
Oh.
mean, is it the same? Is there a special, do you have to do it through a motion? I move that we approve Bob
See,
Light as our fearless leader chair.
And I will second it.
Okay. Brian Smith. Brian,
Yes.
thank you. Brian Swanson,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes, thank you.
Millie,
Yes.
and I guess I abstain, I guess, right?
And you can vote for yourself.
You can vote for
Okay.
yourself.
Okay, I vote yes. Thank you for your encouragement and thank you for your faith in me for another year. One more year. Okay, for vice chair, do I have any nominations?
I nominate Leslie Harrison for vice chair.
Okay. Any other nominations? Leslie, thank you for agreeing to this. So I guess we don't need a motion.
Tough
We'll
field
just-
here, very competitive.
Okay, Brian Smith for Leslie. Brian,
Yes.
okay, Brian Swanson,
Yes.
Millie,
Yes.
I vote yes enthusiastically, and Leslie,
Yes.
congratulations.
I
Now,
Ooh, it was a nail biter there, I'll tell you.
know.
we have the difficult job of secretary. I want to say Brian's been doing an excellent job as secretary.
Yes.
Do I have any nominations for secretary?
I nominate Brian Swanson for secretary. That's what you get for doing a good job.
Yeah.
Yes.
That emotion and second it.
Okay. Okay, Brian Smith. For Brian.
Brian.
Yes.
Okay.
Millie,
Yes.
Leslie? Leslie?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And I vote enthusiastically yes. Brian Swanson, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, so we have our new officers for the next year.
Bob, do we have minutes from last time's meeting that we should approve?
Yes.
Yes, we do, and I screwed up. See? Okay, so I did send everything out, so we do have to approve them. Everyone received
want you as-
minutes. Are there any
We
changes?
don't want you as chair anymore, Bob.
I know.
He's trying now.
We can start the impeachment anytime. So, any changes to the minutes? I apologize that was supposed to come first. No changes? Good. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes of March 19th?
So moved.
Second.
Second,
Okay. Brian Smith, do you approve the minutes?
Yes.
Brian Swanson,
Yes.
Millie,
yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
and I approve the minutes. I will issue them to the clerk as soon as possible. I also need to get the letter out about the about 6 Reservoir Street barn. So that will go out. And are there any other issues before the commission?
Hmm.
Hearing none. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Brian Smith,
Yes.
Brian Swanson,
Yes.
Millie,
Yes.
Leslie,
Enthusiastically, yes.
and I vote to adjourn. Thank you all very much. Oh, I'm really messing up here. Next meeting is going to be April,
In May.
May 20,
May 21st.
May 21st.
Yep.
Yep.
Great. Okay, have a great month. We'll see you all at Witness House and also at town meeting.
Yeah,
Great.
definitely town meeting. I'm gonna try to get there on Saturday, but definitely town meeting. Everybody come.
Take care, everyone.
Yep.
But you